Now, we recently went into Iraq and Syria. We've been doing a lot of bombings there. Here's something that they don't often talk about. How much does all that cost us? Well, I'm going to tell you. Now, there's a lot of different numbers here. First, we start with a number on the jets that are being used. Now, the good news is that these jets were previously unused. I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but now they're being put into combat in Syria. How much do the jets cost? The particular ones we're using in Syria, $143 million per plane, okay? So, well, we had already built them and they were sitting there, right? But now, goody, yes, we can do bombings with them, and then they'll have wear and tear and we'll have to buy more. All right, now, Cliff Judy at KTVU did some good analysis here. And Cliff found out, as they explain here, in its budget request for 2015, the Defense Department estimated it spent nearly $325 million procuring 196 missiles this year, along with research, development, testing, and evaluation. That's an average of more than $1.6 million a missile. So now, as you see the video games they show you on CNN, where they dropped bombs and you see things explode. Now, of course, they don't show you the people underneath those bombs. And now, recently in Syria, we accidentally hit a dozen civilians, including men, women, and children. So they don't show you that part. That doesn't look like a video game. But not only does it have significant downsides in terms of humanity, and it also has huge financial downside. Every one of those missiles is approximately, based on this calculation, $1.6 million. That's a lot of money. We could be doing other things with that money, but that never gets talked about on television. All right. Further explanation of how much money we spent. In fact, the DC-based defense think tank, CSBA, estimates that if the U.S. continues with just moderate airstrikes in Syria and Iraq, the cost will range from $200 to $300 million a month. But that cost obviously goes up as military involvement increases. That's why you'll have all these different senators on television talking about, oh, we got to have boots on the ground, we got to increase the activity, we got to do more war. Because then that price tag moves on up. Those government officials, senators, congressmen, one day they'll be working for those defense contractors. I'm going to tell you how much money they're making off this in a second. But you know, we get lost in the numbers. Think about it, $200 to $300 million. What could your local community do with that money? What could your state do with that money? How many schools could we build with that money? How many hospitals could we build? Every month, that's how much we spend in Iraq and Syria just bombing the place, okay? Now, last year, the Financial Times did an analysis, as again Cliff Judy explains, and they reported the total spending in the war in Iraq was $139 billion to just defense contractors. And that's just the money we know that's on the books. Okay, so that is a low estimate. But think about that number, $139 billion. That's not what we gave our military, that's not the Pentagon spending, that's just the contractors. Now, they're making a ton of money. Okay, now, the report followed a 2011 commission report to Congress that estimated somewhere between $31 billion to $60 billion was lost to contract waste in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, was there a congressional investigation? I mean, they want to do investigations about Benghazi and IRS scandals, all these manufactured things like, we found out the IRS scandal. No, they investigated both liberal groups and conservative groups, but they're hearing after hearing. Where's my hearing on the $30 to $60 billion they robbed from us? You want to talk about waste? You want to talk about big government? You want to talk about fiscal irresponsibility? $30 to $60 billion out of our pocket into their pocket, not even for the war. That's just the waste, okay? And waste is a euphemism, man. In Iraq, there was story after story about how they would literally bring in cash full of luggage. They wouldn't even count it oftentimes. They would charge the government whatever the hell they wanted, these contractors, because they knew nobody was going to hold them accountable. So they would charge these gargantuan prices. They knew that they were robbing us blind. That money's gone. No one's ever going to ask for it back because the guys in government are in bed with those contractors. Those contractors are the ones that are giving them their campaign donations that allow them to get in office in the first place. That's how they make a killing, and we all get killed. So now, we're not done. Now let's go to Bloomberg and let's find out how much money those defense contractors are making. Led by Lockheed Martin Corporation, the biggest U.S. defense companies are trading at record prices as shareholders reap rewards from escalating military conflicts around the world. Now, two things about that. First of all, shareholders gain some money, no question, but the executives gain the most amount of money. And they're the ones who've set up the system where they funnel campaign donations to the politicians, which keeps this military-industrial complex humming. And right now, they're reaping the rewards of war. Isn't that amazing? And we go on like it's no big deal. Oh, well, obviously, they're motivated to make money, and in order to make money, you have to bomb and kill people. And so, okay, all of a sudden, ISIS, before Saddam Hussein, Bin Laden, Taliban, everybody always be scared. We got to go to war. These guys got to make money. Now, more on how they're making money. Investors see rising sales for makers of missiles, drones, and other weapons as the U.S. hits Islamic State fighters in Syria and Iraq, said Jack Ablin, chief investment officer at Chicago-based BMO Private Bank. President Barack Obama approved open-ended airstrikes this month while ruling out ground combat. Ooh, they love to hear open-ended military affairs. That's money in their pockets. That's why they're at record prices right now. Now, last year, just 5 defense contractors got a total of $105 billion in federal contracts. Here they are: Northrop, Lockheed, Raytheon, General Dynamics, and Boeing. $105 billion to just those companies. Now, Jack Ablin, the guy whose job it is to understand how all of this works. Now, he's not against it. He's very much in favor of it. I mean, he's neutral. He's making money off this process. He's not with the defense contractors. He decides whether to invest in them or not, right? He says, as we ramp up our military muscle in the Middle East, there's a sense that demand for military equipment and weaponry will likely rise. Now, that's very logical, and that's why they're very excited about more wars. Now, look at this chilling quote. To the extent we can shift away from relying on troops and rely more heavily on equipment, that could present an opportunity. For them, death and destruction is an opportunity. So glad we gave them that opportunity. A Bloomberg intelligence gauge of the 4 largest Pentagon contractors rose 19% this year through yesterday, outstripping the 2.2% gain for the Standard & Poor's 500 Industrials Index. So they're doing a hell of a lot better than the rest of the market. War is good business. That business keeps on rolling. And finally, Lockheed, the world's biggest defense company, reached an all-time high of $180.74 on September 19th, when Northrop, Raytheon, and General Dynamics also set records. War isn't just good for business, it's great for business. You wonder why we're in a perpetual state of war? Follow the money. It's not that complicated. $105 billion a year for just the top 5 defense contractors. Those guys then circulate the money by giving campaign donations to politicians and then hiring some of those politicians and generals as soon as they retire from the Pentagon and from Congress. And lo and behold, they appear right back on television saying, we need more war.